Hey everybody, I've been thinking a lot about character sheets lately and how they're really good at containing information. God knows this tortilla isn't doing anything. I'm a level 4 cleric.
Character sheets, the third most important thing needed to play the game, next to dice and books. I mean, how else are you gonna play? That tortilla isn't doing anything.
This is where I keep my spells.
One of the first things I look at when checking out a brand new game is actually the character sheet. From the layout, ease of access, and what's displayed on the first page, to me, this is usually a good indicator of the design philosophy of the game, and how easy the developers made it to jump in and play.
This of course isn't perfect. Some of the most deceptively complicated character sheets are for some rather easy systems.
Monster of the Week usually comes to mind regarding this one. The sheet, or book as it's called, isn't complicated per se. You basically just check off the boxes. However, the fact that it's mainly text describing what your character does at a glance could make it appear more complicated than it really is. Then compare that to 5e, where the sheet is fairly simple, but the game is far more complex than Monster of the Week. Then again, 5e's sheet has that big question of, where do I put this information? Which is then quickly followed by, wait, you really expect me to fit all of my class abilities into these boxes? Next thing you're gonna tell me is that it was originally lines. I hate it when I'm right. The 3.5 sheet. This is the definition of a classic to me. And whenever anyone says character sheet, this is usually what I tend to think of. But is it any good?
The front page is nice.
To me, the first page of the 3.5 sheet does the perfect job of displaying crucial numerical information on one page. Sure, it's bland and uninteresting, but there's something magical about looking down and seeing the core information of your character right there in front of you.
Wow. Would you look at all those numbers?
The second page, however, is an absolute disaster. This is where the spell list goes? Are you kidding me? More often than not, we would simply take care of this by using an extra sheet of paper, note cards, or just flat out use Excel. But despite that, I still look at this and I love it. To me, it is the definition of a classic character sheet. But does that make it the best one out there? No, it doesn't. It had a host of problems, but man, does it have its charm.
Not to mention, the 3rd edition Open Gaming license made it where this character sheet basically became synonymous for character sheets for a lot of people during that era of gaming. Many, like me, who started with systems like Pathfinder 1st edition that used the 3.5 OGL, this is typically what comes to mind. While for many people this is not the definition of a classic character sheet, others would be considered along the lines of this that was used for D&D Basic. For me, the perfect design of a character sheet is one that leaves enough open for people to really write down their character's abilities in their way, while also giving them enough guidance to know where things should go. There's just something writing down your ability in your own way to help you understand it that can really, just assist people. Now, does this always work? No, it's not true for everybody, and that can be said about a lot of things.
Now, Call of Cthulhu, though, for me, is the best of all of this. Because the system is straightforward in its design, and also you're basically playing regular humans, it doesn't have to rely on pages for spell abilities and such. You have the front page for all your character's stats. Then the back page is for your character's quirks and personalities, which you are given several spaces to fill out. Also, lines in my book is always a plus. Helps keep things from looking like chicken scratch. In theory, anyway.
However, if there's one thing that is truly exciting is the transition from one edition to the next and seeing how the character sheets are going to differ.
Pathfinder's jump from 1E to 2E, it's like night and day. I was so excited to see what the new character sheet was going to look like, and when it came out, what did they do? This is a graphical design eyesore. Just looking at it makes my eyes want to explode.
Ouch.
Now, obviously I'm being very nitpicky here, but seriously, why is it designed like this? Why are there separate boxes for ranged and melee attacks? Why is perception separate? Just why?
Granted, a lot of this, as mentioned, does actually inform the overall design of the game. Perception is probably one of the most commonly rolled skills and is oftentimes most associated with initiative for Pathfinder 2nd edition. So it being separate does make sense in that regard.
However, at a glance, this just looks like a cluttered mess. It's like they wanted to keep the design of their classic sheet, but update it with cool graphical designs that distract more than help. Even the 5e cheat said, "You got weapons? Put them here, you dingus!" This is just so unnecessary, not to mention printing it in color almost looks like sensory overload. It's why I opt to print in black and white just to chill out on that front.
Despite my dislike for the Pathfinder 2nd Edition character sheet, I can't help but admit that it does get the job done. It does communicate the core elements of the game and what's important. I just can't help but feel that it comes across as overly designed, if you will. But fortunately, there are fan redos of character sheets, just like with any TTRPG system.
This extends to sheets to help people with various reading disabilities, such as dyslexia. Many of these are not officially released by the publishers, but usually by a third party or independent developers. It's honestly something I love to see happen, as it's people working together to make the game even more accessible.
Not to mention, with the advent of the internet and things that come along with it, maintaining a character sheet has become easier than ever, thus lowering the barrier to entry for many.
Sites like D&D Beyond, Roll20, Foundry, and other virtual tabletops basically have their own virtual character sheet. There are even apps out there like ones found for Fight Club 5. Wizards of the Coast even attempted something like this for 4th edition, and Paizo has one for their games. Then of course there are PDF readers and editors.
Needless to say, the way you maintain your character's information is going to vary wildly from person to person. I know a lot of people that tend to prefer digital over hard copy, and myself, I tend to prefer hard copy over digital, but I see the benefit of both.
Character sheets are always fun to look at. They give a brief little window into how the game functions, even if that means potentially causing your eyes to bleed.
Fantasy Flight! Why does it look like this?